Hi, my name's Keith and I'm known as the Florida Stone Man, and today I'm going to be talking to you about when to ignore your problems. When do you ignore your problems? When are you supposed to ignore your problems? Sometimes ignoring your problems can actually really help you. It can really just change the outcome on certain situations, and sometimes when you ignore problems, they develop into worse problems. But where's the discernment? How do you know when to ignore a problem? How do you know what to do and when to do it? Well, the biggest answer is God. Yes, God. God always comes first, and that's exactly how you know when to ignore certain problems. And I'll go into depth in this video and use specific examples, because sometimes you're supposed to act, sometimes you're supposed to react, sometimes you're not supposed to do anything but hand it to Him. And I'm going to use lots of examples in this video, guys. This is a really cool video because this will help a lot of you. And this video is actually going to train you how to dimension hop as well. How to dimension hop, okay? Tongue twister. How to dimension hop with ease. And you can dimension hop by ignoring your problems in a specific way. Now, what's a problem? What's the problem? So, you have to identify what your problems are. If you don't think you have any problems, humans are naturally in this day and age trained to not feel anything anymore. If you ask someone what they're feeling, they'll probably tell you that they're not feeling anything. Which that person's feeling a whole bunch of stuff, but they just are used to not feeling. Now, in the society, we get so used to just muting feelings. It starts with eating meat. As crazy as it sounds, it starts with eating pig and beef. And I'm not a vegan. I eat fish. I used to eat chicken. I used to eat all kinds of meat back then, but now my body's kicking me off certain things. But I'm just talking from a spiritual standpoint is when it comes to eating meat, especially for some of the more commercial meat, a lot of that meat, it has a whole bunch of trauma energy in it and a whole bunch of just herd energy. So these animals die in circumstances that are just... And how did I end up on the topic of meat? It's because these animals die and they have fear in them when they die. They're basically not feeling... They're just used to ignoring feelings because they don't have any other feeling but fear and at that death. So, and I've actually seen it. I cannot say my experience on... Legally, I can't say certain experience I have around animal farms and stuff like that. But let's just say I've been around them. And these animal farms are not as nice as it appears to the animals before the animals go. Now, they're not as clean as you think about processing the meats as well. And yes and no, but when it comes to commercial, you do the research. I'm not going to tell you everything on here, okay? But when these animals have fear and just uncertainty before they go into the next world, because animals are life too. For people who don't think animals have souls, I'll do a video on that. That's going to be a nice video because animals have beautiful souls. Animals were given to Adam in the Garden of Eden for a reason, as well as Eve, but that's a different topic. But the thing about that is people are used to just not feeling. And not feeling sometimes doesn't fix things. So if you're not feeling good and you're just ignoring that feeling, it's not going to change it unless that's specific to not just flat out, unless that's dimension hopping into a different reality. But a lot of times it's not. So it depends on your trauma, your circumstances, where you're at in life, who you are as a person, just different effects of how you communicate, how you interact with people, and you start asking questions about yourself. So just uncovering any problems right now, because everyone has problems here and there, but that's part of life. Like, we're always going to have so many good things. And the only reason I'm focusing on certain issues in this video and how to resolve certain problems is because every problem has a solution. God didn't have it. He didn't make any problem without a solution, okay? So, and in essence, you work on any problem you have or don't know you have the best you can, and then you hand it to God. Once it's out of your control, you're just a human. God is God. So make sure you're talking to God very often, but once the problem's out of your hands, don't worry about it. That's when you stop caring the most. That's when you stop Just, let me give you an example. Let's just say at work, you're having all these people trying to cause problems with you. You told the people at the work, I'm not causing problems back, I didn't do that, etc. Instead of going home and worrying about it and paying attention to that problem and be like, oh, this is happening at work, you give it to God after you do your part and say, okay, I didn't do it. Here's the evidence. Or maybe there's no evidence. Maybe the energy is the evidence. That does happen sometimes. But then you let go. You let go. You just say to God, okay, this is out of my control. Forget. Forget? What do you mean forget? Forget. Just move on to something else, because you'll put too much energy behind that problem and it will make more problems. It also tells God, and I've made an entire video on that, it tells God, hey, I don't trust you. I don't trust you to take care of this issue because I'm worrying about it myself. I just asked you for help. I said I'd give it to you, but now I'm worrying, so I don't really trust you, so let me try to do what I can on my own. And you know what happens when you try to do what you can do on your own? Things get worse, and they fall out of more control. So coming from a interdimensional standpoint, let's just say you've done everything you possibly can do at that problem at the workplace or your job. Maybe it's with a family member, etc. You take the problem and you practice the affirmations, I don't care, and just once you have no control and your actions don't do anything, nothing you can do anything at all, you forget. You interdimension hop into a reality that everything's fine. You use a law of assumption, which is a law within the law of attraction. The law of assumption states that what you assume is now reality. So if you're worrying, you're assuming the problem's still there. But if you just assume that problem's taken care of, because He's taking care of it, just the law of assumption alone will take care of that. So keep yourself busy, forget about that, move on, because the problem is probably a lot smaller than you ever even thought. Because as humans, we're very imaginative. So when we start imagining things, we're making up scenarios, and I taught about in my last video what happens when you imagine things. Even in your third eye, you'll see in your third eye. You'll just put this together in your third eye. Just, okay, I'm imagining, try this, guys. Close your eyes right now. This is an interactive part of the video. Imagine $100 in your hand right now. $100 in your hand. Which $100 is just $100, but imagine it in your hand. Now, how many of you have itchy hands? That means the $100 on its way to you. That's how the interdimensions work. Let me turn this light down. But that's how these interdimensions work. If you imagine it, it's already a part of your reality. That's why when you guys are worrying, you're manifesting. It's not about what God isn't doing for you, because what He isn't doing for you is He's not enabling certain things. So what He is doing is taken care of, but what your actions are doing is basically trying to counteracting what He is doing. So at the end of the day, if you have a problem that you've no control over, pass it to God and say, I trust you. This is out of my control. It's like a free fall. Imagine someone's free falling into your hands, or you're falling backwards and you have someone who's very strong and they're going to catch you, and they catch you, versus you fell backwards, you didn't trust that person. You look back and you're like, no. Nope, I didn't trust that. And you didn't pass. Maybe the reward for the free fall was a new job opportunity, or just maybe you're now the head of the job or whatever. I'll use another example. What's another issue? Because this is a good one. Shadow work. When to actually address your problems. Shadow work is one you have to do on your own. But if you do a certain shadow work amount on your own, then you pass it to God. And you ask Him to help you, because He'll fill in the gaps. For example, if you're doing shadow work, or if you're not doing shadow work, but you have shadows just spilling out, which actually happens a very lot to people, that's when you ask God for help, and that's when you do your part. So when to ignore a problem is after you did shadow work. Now, let's just say you did as much shadow work as you possibly can, and you can't really handle anymore. Then you ignore the rest of it. Then you tuck it away and then deal with the other shadows later. Versus some people will tuck shadows away so much to the point where they become the shadow, which tell me, guys, if you want me to make an entire video on what happens when you guys become the shadow. It's a very vicious thing. it's not cool either. People will try to be like, oh, I'm dark and and you'll see people, and usually the kind of people who go into clubs and just feed up other people's energy are those kind of people. Like, and like, how's that working out for you? It's not. You're like at the bottom, trying to mooch off people and just their energy, and just mooching is not necessarily money, but it's these people with low energy who want to embody darkness will literally leech off everyone around them. Unfortunate as it is, those people usually go to bars and clubs and like a prong. But when do you ignore your problems? After you've taken care of them. So, and you guys have to be really honest with yourselves. And this is the importance of talking to God, because He'll let you know, if you ask, where your problems lie. So, if I ask you right now, what problems are you facing? You kind of think about it, well, ooh, this is a good one, because a lot of people think that they have money problems. When it's not money problems, it's them getting what they ask for, because maybe that person wants to do better in life. And that's actually one of the reasons I teach so many manifestation videos on wealth and abundance, is because society's training people into dirt. Like, they're flat out training people. All these songs about being broke and heartbroken and lonely without anyone or anything like that. Why are people singing about that? And songs singing about, oh, I want this and I want that, but I have nothing. Like, really? And people sing it so freely and openly. I'm like, let me correct this. Because when I teach about manifesting wealth and abundance, it really changes people's minds, because they'll listen to a song they've been listening to as their favorite, talking about being broke in every way, and they're like, wait, this counters my affirmation, and this counters some of the ritual that Florida Stone Man taught. So the people will stop listening to songs that are damaging their inner higher mind. Now, when it comes to your money problems, a lot of you are getting exactly what you ask for. And it's exactly what you're asking for. It's people say, okay, I would like to be wealthy and abundant. But let's just say you're stuck at a job. That the job is just, people are mean to you, your pay is somehow going down because, or you're getting kind of replaced or something. Because I see it for people who work in jobs. They work in a job, they're the best at what they do. Whoever's above them will be afraid of them, so they'll kind of start kicking them out. And that's the reward for doing so well. And you're so good at doing the job, you can start something yourself and do better than everyone who's at the job. Like, overnight. It's that easy. It is that easy. So, God sees it's that easy for you. Sometimes, you just need a little pressure. So, God adds a little pressure. So, your workplace gets crazy. You don't want to be there anymore. Next thing you know, you're without a job, but you have all this extra stuff. And now you're selling the stuff, and you're making just an easy 6 figures, and yet 6 figures from when you're not at the job. Because a lot of you have stuff around your house, like just a whole bunch of stuff that you could be selling. I know someone I can't say the word. When the world ended, that person did better than he was. Oh, I'm not supposed to say who the person was. He did a really good job, because he was at a job where he wasn't making anything, and he had all these coins that he just had sitting around that he liked collecting, and he started selling them, and he made 6 figures overnight just by selling all these very, very, very high-end coins that he liked collecting. So some of the stuff you have collecting, and God knows it, it's like, oh, you know, if you sold that, and the pressure wouldn't have been there. So you're getting what you're asking for. So some of your problems are actually answers. But what do you do with some of these problems? You do the most you possibly can, look at where you're trying to be moved, and go there, because that's the higher place. Sometimes, for example, you guys are like pushed out of neighborhoods because the whole neighborhood might be flooded or something, you know? There might be something that happened in the neighborhood, and you're forced moved out. It's a problem, it's all this stuff. But what happened if you would have stayed? God really cares about you, so he's going to get you out of somewhere before he knows that something's coming. So some of your problems are not actually problems. They're just getting moved around. But what do you do in that scenario? You grow from them. You do the most you possibly can do. Then you ignore circumstances that you can't control. That's how you become very successful. Do you think these entrepreneurs out here, do you think they paid so much attention to the losses that they just stayed stuck on the loss? No. They kept going. They kept going. Now, some of the entrepreneurs have God. Some of them don't. The thing is, the people with God at their back will succeed better than ever. They'll succeed the most, but somehow people of darkness will just still get to a certain point just because they're following spiritual laws. So they might not get there as efficiently, but they'll get there in not such a blessed way. That's why people of darkness make it to certain places. But if you like it in a certain way, do it through God. If you like it in a blessed way, if you'd like God to be at your back, because if you do anything without God, you're subject to be taken advantage of by the enemy. So people will do stuff on their own and they'll encounter problems that normally God would be taking care of, but that person didn't ask. So God does help you without you knowing sometimes, but you do have to ask for stuff. So in this video, when do you ignore problems? When you no longer have control over them, flat out just ignore the problem. Give it to God and ignore it. Focus on something else. That interdimension hops you into the law of the assumption, into different interdimensional pockets of reality, into you being in the reality of where you wanted to be. And then you actually completely forget about where you didn't want to be, and you advance. Keep moving closer to God, because these things that are problems in our lives are not actually problems, they're just challenging us to become better people, and when we interdimension hop, it creates better mechanisms for us. If you guys have any questions, ask them in the comment section. Until then, I'll see you guys next time. Ciao!